Bradford Ferguson, they're saying this will be an historic day. There's already calls, somebody's already officially started the effort to get President Trump up on Mount Rushmore. He's got two legs of the Besant three-legged stool. Now all you have to do is cut regulations. What are you thinking today that the big, beautiful bill has been passed?
I think it was good to get a lot of that codified. I know there's concerns about spending from here on out and not holding my breath for big spending cuts from rescission.
Yeah.
Granted that the rescission package proposed is like less than $10 billion, where Doge has found over 160 billion in cuts. Um, but I generally favor these tax cuts. I don't think this is quite an existential issue for the United States, so I disagree with a little bit, but with Musk there. But I think it's would be good if they made the budget a little more balanced. I would in general favor running deficits when the economy's weak,
Mhm.
and the economy isn't weak right now as far as we know. Maybe there's some trouble under the hood we're not aware of, but um, yeah. So I think in general it should be running like either break even or surpluses when the economy's going strong, and then running deficits when it's weak.
So Besant says that that would be to go directly from 6% of the economy to zero, in 6 months or whatever would be extremely hard on the economy.
Right.
And so his goal is to move it down to 3% during this term. And I think my numbers would suggest they'll beat that number. They'll actually get it under 3% during the next 3 years. So why are you concerned that they won't do the rescissions? Because let me set it up a little better. Uh,
Okay.
the idea with the 9 billion was supposed to be a test case to run the rescission through the process. And then
Hmm.
once that one went through, then they would put the next bill out and the next bill out, small bills for each kind of category.
We'll see.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. I, while they have the majority, I think it's important that they act more forcefully. I understand, doing rescissions is somewhat new, right?
I don't think, I think
It's legal,
it's
but
legal.
I haven't really heard them doing it recently in like
Oh,
the
no,
last
no,
year.
no. It's not something that's been used much, if that's what you mean. So
Yeah.
the rescission power has been there, but it hasn't been used much.
Hmm.
But with the majority and with mostly hawks on the Republican side, I would think they'd be able to get these through. Especially because most of them, it's just really encoding what's already happened. I mean, these cuts have already been made to USAID. It's already closed.
Yeah. So, there was a very strong Supreme Court ruling about district court judges and their powers. Um, so it's possible that they get more serious about pushing things through. Maybe they made promises that the rescissions are going to be more serious, and perhaps that's how they got more votes to get this to pass through Congress. Maybe that's how they got Congress comfortable, was that they, made some promises around rescissions and what they may do in the future.
So
But like this whole like continuing resolution, is it to avoid a supermajority or to avoid filibuster in the
yes,
Senate? Is that
yes,
right?
yeah. The continuing resolution has to meet certain criteria. It's called the Byrd rules.
Mhm.
Meets the Byrd rules, then it only needs 51 votes. Yeah, yeah.
And I laugh because Byrd was a representative that he retired. What did he die before he retired? He was like 90 something years old.
Right. But he was a force. He was
Yeah, he was a force, and he deserved his stature for sure. But he he was into his 90s. That's
yeah,
why I chuckle a little bit.
right. Yeah. So, okay. So I have put out, I was for the bill. I mean, sure, I would have liked to seen less spending, but my numbers that I've repeated on the show over and over again is if we get the 300 billion a year from tariffs, if we get an extra 300 billion a year from taxes because of the stimulation of the economy, which is what Bessent says that we're going to get from 2.7% GDP raises as opposed to 1.8. If we get that, and then that should lower the interest rates as inflation goes down, we should be able to save money on interest, and altogether that should end up reducing the deficit fairly substantially, which will in kind reduce the amount of money that we have to pay in interest rate because we won't have as much going out to pay on the size of the overall size. So that's kind of the way I understand how it's supposed to work. And I've been crying out for Elon to please give the president 6 months.
Give him a little time.
Give him 6 months. He's proven over and over again. He proved on the tariffs. He's proven on peace. He's proven on go down the list, and he's just proven that he can get a bill like this through. That big, this is a huge bill. He's proven he's
Inflation,
inflation. Yep, all of this stuff is happening. So give him 6 months, and if you're really upset at the end of 6 months, you want to start a party, start a party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see where you're coming from, and there are limits to what they can do with the continuing resolution process.
Right.
I think, otherwise the legislation was generally positive, but what they did to renewable energy was terrible. And then they lie about renewable energy on top of that.
Yes.
So not only do they take away tax credits, but they're imposing regulations and taxes upon it. So they're doing a total 180 at a time where we need more energy as a country. We need all of the above approach to energy, not just like coal and natural gas. I think they even like stuck it to nuclear a little bit,
Oh, they did? I didn't see that. Yeah.
allegedly,
Huh.
and there was some support for hydrogen because the oil lobby likes the dirty hydrogen, but clean hydrogen did not was also nerfed. So I think that's a shame. But like, some of the other stuff that they're doing, um, generally supportive of.
So I
And
was,
I think there's a lot of things that are gonna help the working and middle class,
right.
and getting fraud um, out of our medical system, I think will be a big help as well.
So what I would say to Elon also, besides giving the president 6 months on this to see what happens, and I agree with you, I thought the decisions that they made with regard to clean energy were not good, not smart. But what I would say to Elon is, what does everybody else do when they don't get their way, especially with their own party, is they lobby.
Hmm.
So yes, he had the ear of the president for 6 months or whatever, as to 8 months. And the president still went this direction, but okay, get in there again and start doing your lobbying. Go senator by senator, congressman by congressman. Instead of starting a new party, if you don't get your way, there's a process, there's a method.
Yeah.
Get the energy from the public going on the clean energy thing, and because Elon has such a purist approach to it, saying he doesn't really want the subsidies. He just doesn't want oil to have them either. Come at it from a purist standpoint and do
Hmm.
the work, do the advertising, do the promotion, hire the agencies, get out there and do it like everybody else has to do it, as opposed to saying, well, I don't like what you did, so I'm going to start a third party.
Hmm. Yeah, and I do think Elon's going to use his bully pulpit or his fame and notoriety to get word out, but he could also be a little quieter about it. Elon does like to recruit, and when he recruits, he does share, some secrets of what they're doing, like how they won Pennsylvania or helped to win Pennsylvania. He
Right.
shared some secrets around that. I think it'd be best if he could recruit, but while staying a little quieter on these advantages that they hope to gain in various races. They've been qu a lot quieter about Optimus in general.
Yeah,
They showed the dancing videos, but in general, they've been quieter about it, which does not give their competitors an opportunity to copy what they're doing.
right, right.
So I think I don't know better than Elon, but perhaps it may be smart for him to take a similar road. Soros was able to do all this quietly.
Very quietly.
Uh, You can see where the money's going, but he was very quiet about it.
So the stock in the after hours, the Tesla stock is down just a little bit.
Mhm.
The two most obvious reasons would be the end of the $7,500 tax benefit, which
Mhm.
ends September 30th. The other reason would be fear that Elon is going to start a third party and be distracted. Um, so on the first case, the $7,500, that's going to be a huge stimulus to sales in the third quarter. So I'm not sure that's why the stock is going down, because who knows what happens in the fourth quarter? That's a long time from now. But in the third quarter, we should sell all-time high probably. And then with regard to Elon, starting a third party and being distracted. Anyway, what do you think about those two issues? Or do you think there's other reasons? And it's not down very much. We're talking about, a percent or so.
You would think that the expiration of the credit would be a big stimulus, but what if people don't really know about it that are in the market for a car? So maybe like Tesla nerds might upgrade faster and do that in the third quarter. Um, I am a little hopeful that the slow sales in SX and Cybertruck are more related to parts. So they did change some things with the S and X. They did change a lot with like the lower end Cybertruck,
Mhm.
and I'm hopeful that it's more related to them ramping parts than a lack of demand. So I'm curious to see what happens with that.
Yeah, very curious. I'm hoping that that'll be one of the questions at the earnings call is what the heck's
Yeah.
going on with that?
You probably saw in the impact report, Tesla reiterated that there's an affordable model coming. And
So,
that was in the impact report. So it's not like something that isn't going to happen. It's going to happen. We don't know what it is.
and we don't know when, but sometime this year.
Sometime this year.
Yeah, more pictures showing up today on X. Don't know how good they are, how realistic they are, but showing
Yeah, one
showing
of them looked pretty fake. How
very fake.
small this
Yeah,
one car is.
yeah, right.
That looked pretty fake, but if it's real, it's a lot smaller than the existing Y.
And that
But
might have been perspective. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it was, it might not have been like for like in terms of the
mhm,
distance from the lens. So
yeah.
yeah, so we maybe we'll learn more about that at the earnings call as well. Um, yeah. So what about Elon? How bad do you think it gets for the loyal, faithful followers if Elon does decide to start a third party and literally, announces it tomorrow or Monday or something and says, "Okay, I'm going to do a third party," and people get nervous about the distraction.
I think Elon's very serious about it. I thought he was serious about it on Breakup Thursday, whenever that happened about like a month ago. So I think he's serious. I don't know how loud he is going to be about recruiting for it. I think the reason for him to announce it would be to recruit people to his banner, either as lobbyists or volunteers or whatever, however that may look. I'm not a political machine person, but
Yeah, right.
that would be motivation for him to announce it. I don't know how soon it would happen. I think primaries would be next spring, right?
Primaries will start some in
For
various states.
midterms.
Various states will start primaries in the spring, summer. It's all different times.
Yeah. So I would think you'd want some rock stars to start to get those in place in the fall by the latest. But I'm guessing Elon's talked to a lot of people between between what the day that Trump got shot and today. So I'm guessing he would have some ideas on folks he would like to have working behind the scenes to advance alternative candidates for the midterms.
Yeah. All right, let's turn our attention to
And
Robotaxi.
it
Oh,
could be a bad look. And I think that's why the stock sold off by 5% on Monday
right, right.
is like Elon might be campaigning in dozens of states. We don't know like how much he's going to use um his fame um and all that to try to win these races.
Yeah, and I could imagine a situation where if he was wanted to be super transparent and said, okay, look, here is the guy who's going to run this new party, and it's a major name, somebody that actually has the chops to run the new party. Here's, I'll be involved, but I'm not going to take much time away. It won't even be as much as Doge that I'll be taking away from what I'm doing. But if he doesn't want to see the market, I mean, first of all,
You're talking about Elon massaging the message, and he generally doesn't do that. Uh,
so didn't he just take the job of vice president of sales? So he's got a new job. He's supposed to be out there selling cars. So he has I love him in that position, by the way. I hope that's real. And so if he's going to be out selling, trying to jumpstart the auto sales in the United States in particular, that'd be great.
mhm. Yeah.
All right. What about robotaxis? So you've had a week to think about your stint in Austin, and you've
Yeah.
had dozens and dozens of YouTube videos from people coming in from Austin. You've had other people like 𝐓𝐡𝐮𝐲, making all kinds of comments about what they saw there, connecting the dots. I don't know if you saw his video,
Mhm.
outstanding video about his thoughts about robotaxi. What are you thinking about right now in terms of how we move forward on that?
So first, I want to address economics of robotaxis.
Okay.
So I I believe Tesla is going to optimize for profit per minute or profit per hour. So I don't believe they're going to have like a zone pricing where you go from one zone to another, and it's one flat cost, that kind of thing. You want to optimize the asset, so you're going to optimize profit per minute of that asset. So in general, what it's going to look like is there's going to be some distance factor, but I think the main factor is going to be time, and then how long at the time, how long is the trip, so the longer the trip, the more it costs. But then I think and I'm guessing that Uber and Lyft do this today. So if you're going to an area where there's a lot of people demanding rides to leave the area to start that area, so you're bringing a car to a high demand area, I think you'll get a discount for that.
Hmm.
But if you want to take your car to an area where they doubt,
Be able to pick somebody up.
they'll be able to pick someone up right away, then there would be a premium for that ride. You'd be upcharged for that.
Hmm.
So I think that's generally how they're going to price it
Hmm.
to optimize it. And in essence, that'll be best for customers too.
Okay.
Obviously everyone wants the lowest cost, but
Yeah, yeah,
you want it to operate efficiently. So you're kind of near like the Inland Empire, right?
it's true.
Or
Yes.
so like if you wanted to take it further out and there really wasn't demand for it, then you should pay more for that.
Yeah, for the deadheading back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the city though, in the city core, you don't usually have a deadheading problem. It's as you get out to the burbs or out to the edges of the city, that's where you have more of a likelihood of deadheads.
Yeah, certain times a day you're going to have a much higher demand. Sometimes it could be like 10x
Mm-hmm.
from 1 hour to the next, allegedly.
Hmm.
Um, so what Tesla can do, and while it's not in very high demand, is they can work with local businesses to run deliveries.
Right,
Say, okay, if you don't really care what time of day this delivery happens, we got low demand during this time. This is when we're going to do the delivery for you.
right, right.
So
Yeah.
then they can keep that utilization going.
Um, okay, and but the 420, the $4.20 per zone from connecting the dots didn't impress you. The thing I liked about it was the simplicity, was the
Yeah.
marketing. The idea that you kind of have an idea ahead of time what it's going to cost you, as opposed to playing Russian roulette with your with your with your cell phone.
Yeah. So I think where you get people initially is like the first ride's free.
Mhm.
And Uber and Lyft did this.
Right.
So you can so you take a ride, and then each person that you get to download the app or to do a ride, you get another free ride for that.
Right.
So then you're incentivized to text all your contacts and say, hey, if you want a free ride on Robotaxi, then download the app and the first one's on me.
Mhm, mhm.
And then you get all those free rides. So it should create a network effect to get people to try it out. And then I think on that free ride, you might as well tell people how much it would have cost.
Yeah, yeah, of course, sure. And then the idea would be that the ride, the what do you want to call it? The customer experience is substantially better than the customer experience on Waymo or certainly on Uber.
Yeah, I think it's better. You can link your Spotify to your Tesla account, so you can play any song you want. You can search for any song. On Waymo, you can choose a genre, but then
Mm,
you kind of have to fast forward through the songs to get the music you want. You can control the volume, and that's good. And there's some other things you can do in the back seat, but I felt like the experience in the Robotaxi was a little better than the Waymo, but the Waymo did a fair job, and it did get me from point A to B.
mhm,
So
mhm.
that part of it was good.
So,
It I did take a Waymo in the pouring rain, and 3 times it had to stop.
hmm,
So twice it dived into a parking lot to take a breather,
mhm.
but one time it stopped in the middle of the road without the hazards on. So that
That
was kind of dangerous, but luckily there was no one behind us. It wasn't like truly a safety issue. It's just a little shocking.
right.
But it did get us to the spot, but the Waymo's handle drop off a little different. So they'll drop you off on the curb even if it's a busy street. And
Right,
that's not what's best for you.
right,
So
right.
even if you kind of have to go slightly around the corner, that's the best way to be dropped off. Some people want that curbside, but it's not the safest or the best. And you're being a pain by stopping
Sure.
in in a crucial lane on a busy street.
It would seem like the data that Tesla's been accumulating now for years would also give all the data that they need to know how to approach any hotel, any restaurant, any retail area that
Yeah,
they
it's
would.
it's really, really good pick up and drop off, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah,
And some people want to be at the dropped off at the very front, but that's not the best spot.
yeah.
There's this this grocery store called HEB, and busy streets on both sides, and your only other option is to go into a parking garage,
Mhm.
and it's not right to be dropped off on those busy streets. So it drops you off across the street in a bank parking lot,
Mhm.
and that's the best solution. Some people didn't like it, but
Yeah.
that's the safest and best solution.
Okay. Yeah. So it was like I
And
said, this should be an advantage to
yeah.
Tesla because
And
they
the other thing you say about data is like, so every successful ride they have,
uh-huh.
they can use that for training data, especially if it navigated a situation really well where, maybe it felt like, oh, maybe this is an edge case, or it has to make a negotiation here, and it handled it perfectly. Well, then you can include that clip into your training data. So like where it goes by that long line of 300 plus bicycles that are,
Right.
capped on both ends by
Yep.
police cars. Well, it did that perfectly. Maybe it was luck, but you might as well put that in the training data.
Sure. Yes. Yes. Right. So now it's been another week. I mean, a number of days have gone by. I haven't been paying a lot of attention, but have you seen any more kind of bad situations coming up? Have they continued to have even these little minor issues? I haven't seen many people talking about additional issues.
Yeah, nothing really new. Dave Lee, while he was still there, the car wanted to turn left and it really couldn't. So they ended up intervening. So they have a system where if your car stopped for, I think maybe 2 minutes
Hmm.
in the same spot, then someone remote will check it out and they might reroute you or something like that. So then they just force the car to hang a right. They gave it a new pin.
I see.
And then once it got to that new pin, it rerouted.
Okay.
So that in a way it was kind of doing like a Michigan left or whatever. Um,
That's interesting. I haven't thought about the idea of just rerouting it as opposed to controlling it by some kind of a steering wheel, if you will, at the headquarters.
yeah,
Just have it reroute because it can't continue in that direction. That's
yeah.
interesting. That's
So
interesting.
that'll get more clever as time goes on. They're very focused on pickup and drop off, the customer experience. It was clear to me the safety monitors are looking for these things in addition to just, um, supervising Tesla self-driving.
Right, 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 right. So lots and lots of cars driving around on the other side of the bridge and over the bridge in the
Oh
last
yeah.
24 hours. So everybody wants to know, are they going to have to do this with every new territory that they expand to prep it?
And we don't know that yet.
Okay.
And maybe Tesla's figuring that out. But I think the key thing that Tesla's going to optimize for now is safety and collecting stats on how it does in new areas. So yeah, there was a video out where literally is an army of Teslas with either LiDARs or extra cameras, where they're validating and testing downtown Austin, which is just north of the area that they were operating in. So just north of the river that you mentioned.
Right. So this is what I'm asking everybody right now.
The army's coming. I think that's exciting, right?
So this has been my question for all the co-hosts this week. I'm starting to get this question of the week. Maybe I'll make that a deal. So my question this week is, since the launch didn't stimulate a FOMO, what will stimulate a FOMO? What will it be to where the institutional investors and other retail investors finally go, oh my gosh, this is going to happen and it's going to be huge. And then they start saying, I got to get in before the stock goes crazy.
Yeah, I'd say maybe a doubling of the service area, maybe including highway. Right now, Waymo isn't doing highway at all,
Yeah,
and Tesla isn't doing highway right now. But it would benefit from highway. The service area right now has basically a T. It's got like highway on the bottom of the service area and kind of bisecting the middle. So it would benefit if they enabled highway, but they want safety. You know, most fatalities are on the highway.
yeah,
So even though Teslas are very safe and good on the highway, you just have a much higher increased risk
right.
on the highway. So, you know, one of those two, we know they're hiring more safety monitors.
Are they?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So
Yeah,
that,
there was an immediate call. I think it was maybe last Friday or so that they were hiring for more.
huh?
They could also try to get some to move from other cities or to, you know, travel briefly from other cities to Austin, because I think they do have hundreds worldwide
Okay.
of the ADAS drivers.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So,
I'm just guessing.
right, right, right.
That's a wag.
Yeah, a wag. I haven't heard that three letter. I haven't heard that's new, but I figured it right out. I was clever. I was clever that way.
A wild guess.
A wild kind of guess. Yeah, a wicked, wicked. Anyway, all right. So, what about taking out would taking out the safety driver be kind of a
Yeah,
stim?
that would be a big move for them too. And maybe it's a new version that would come out where they have Elon's talking about the 4.5x. I don't know if it's the model or the context length, what's getting bigger there, but they already have that version internally.
Mm,
Whatever's going to get them to a point where um, they don't need to intervene to prevent an accident. So, like, even if an accident isn't going to hurt anyone, you don't want accidents to happen. It's not going to be a good look.
right.
Uh, so, once they feel confident that they don't need a person there to avoid an accident, I think they would do it.
So I have a perfect world scenario that I've just been developing
Okay.
the last 24 hours, and that is the $7,500 thing goes away at the end of the quarter. Uh,
Mhm.
Tremendous, huge quarter this quarter because of the $7,500 going away, and just because is some momentum right now. And then at quarter four, we get two announcements. We get the reveal and the immediate availability of the Model Q, and we get the availability of unsupervised driving. So both of those happen at the beginning of the fourth quarter, which I think the unsupervised will be the biggest jolt to sales of a vehicle ever. And the Model Q, Gary Black thinks that'll be the biggest jolt for Tesla ever. So those two together should give us a great fourth quarter.
Yeah, if all that happened, I would agree.
Okay.
Um, so with unsupervised, um, yeah, if I think if Tesla put the liability on the car owner, that they could do that, and uh, I think it's one of the big objections to Tesla self-driving today is people will ask, well, you still have to supervise, and that's more of a question. They're like, I have this objection. You still have to supervise, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
And if you get rid of that objection, I think that would be substantial.
Maybe in the next few weeks, Elon could reduce the nag. He said he was going to reduce the nag. That would be like
Mhm.
a step towards uh,
Yeah,
some,
that would be really good. But as robot, so let's just take ourselves back to the Hertz announcement.
right? Mhm.
And I think this was November of 2021
Okay.
or the last couple of days of October. And essentially Hertz said they were going to buy 100,000 Teslas. And Tesla's like, okay, well, we're not giving you a discount. You can buy them on the website. And Hertz is like, really? And Tesla's like, Yeah, but okay, maybe you can talk to our commercial salesperson, um but then Hertz dropped the ball. And
100%.
but the real opportunity with Hertz was you could potentially have a new person in a Tesla, 100,000 new people in a Tesla every month,
Yeah.
maybe 200,000 every month,
Yeah.
or more. And these are new people that would potentially be like, wow, this is a really nice car. It's a lot nicer than my car at home. Maybe I should sell or trade in my BMW, my Mercedes, my Beamer or whatever, and get this Tesla. So I think as Robotaxi scales and flourishes, it should help sales
Yes.
of just Tesla selling cars. I
100%.
maybe that model's going away, but it'd be nice if it came back for a while before it did go away.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it will help sales as well because we will be looking at lots and lots of people that have never been inside one before. And at least if we expand at the rate that Elon's talking about, even to the extent that we do it to 3 or 4 cities by the end of this year, that's going to be a lot of folks getting a first-time exposure. And we've been joking about the fact that you'll be able to order your new car as you're riding along in the car. Just somebody said Grok, I think it was Cern said that Grok could say to the passenger, "Hey, how are you enjoying the ride?" And the
Mhm.
passenger goes, "This is great. If you'd like to place your order."
Go to Tesla.com.
Right, that's right. We can get you.
Or Grok could say, how much do you think a Tesla goes for?
Right, right. Yeah.
I had a client who's not a Tesla nerd say that they thought the Model Y was $80,000.
80,000. 80,000.
And I said, you could get these for $45,000 now.
So what did he say?
Yeah, she was
Oh,
surprised by that.
that was impressive, huh?
It was a inconvenient truth because then she was forced to think, whoa,
Hmm,
maybe,
Could
maybe.
could think about that.
It's pretty wild how much better the Model Y is compared to the Toyota RAV4. But the cost per mile to own and operate the Model Y is essentially the same. Tesla claims it's like 2 pennies less per mile, but essentially the same. So you get all this extra safety. You're heavier. You're not going to roll over. You get the technology of the great autopilot,
Yep.
just standard. Um, it's much quieter. It's got a great suspension, all that. You get all this stuff. It's a by far a better vehicle, and it costs the same. It's
Right.
crazy to me.
I know. It's just, it is nuts. All right. So I think we've covered most of my list today, and I did promise to get you out of here by 2 o'clock. So,
Yeah.
any last thoughts for the listeners today? Last words of encouragement, advice, direction. Go to rebellionaire.com and become involved in your services. That'd be a good one.
Yeah. We help Teslaonaires become rebellionaires. So let's get right to the numbers.
Actually, I'm gonna skip the numbers today because there's really no. It's a Friday night, basically.
I was
Okay,
faking you out.
careful, you'll catch a fly.
Thought my screen was frozen, didn't you?
It's frozen. Okay, well,
Well, let
Bradford.
me hear the sign off then, Randy.
Oh, a sign off. Okay.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, okay. Uh, and to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.